In September 2015, a bill was introduced in the United States Senate that would allow for victims of terrorist attacks to bring charges against foreign states. But the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia informed Washington that it would sell off $750 billion worth of American assets should the bill be passed. Other countries might think twice before issuing a threat of this magnitude to a global superpower. Evidently, Saudi Arabia appears to be the exception. But just how dangerous is Saudi Arabia? The Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was founded in 1932 following the Al Saud's family's rise to power. Since 1938, Saudi Arabia has become the largest oil producer in the world, providing around 9.5 million barrels a day. Its GDP is in the top 20 on the planet. Saudi Arabia is a member of the Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, or OPEC. OPEC members account for 40% of global oil production and 81% of global crude oil reserves. So influential is OPEC that their decision to overproduce crude oil is tightly restricting the development of other, cheaper, more independent energy sources like shale gas and renewable energy. The most influential member of this group is Saudi Arabia. This means that Saudi Arabia could potentially start or end wars based on their oil prices. For example, according to documentary maker Adam Curtis, Saudi Arabia single-handedly ended the 1973 Yom Kippur War. It quadrupled the price of oil and insisted that the price would not go down until Israel and America withdrew from Arab territory. As the Saudi oil minister, Ahmed Zaki Yamini, said at the time, this changed the balance of power in the world, and the West would have to adapt to survive. Saudi Arabia's defense budget for 2015 was approximately $81.8 billion, ranking third in the world behind China and the US. Much of its money appears to go on aircraft and intelligence. It has the third largest force of F-15 fighters in the world, dwarfing that of its biggest rival, Iran. This military muscle is regularly flexed as Saudi Arabia adopts an interventionist position to further its interests. In March 2015, Saudi Arabia stepped into an international power struggle in Yemen. It quickly turned into a proxy war between Iran and Saudi Arabia. Saudi Arabia's air campaign in Yemen has been widely condemned, as strikes against hospitals, schools, and other non-military positions kill more civilians than combatants. A destabilised Yemen has also proved to be a fertile recruiting ground for Islamic State in the middle of all the chaos. Saudi Arabia's interventionist policy, seemingly to combat growing Iranian influence, has inadvertently led to further dangers for the region as a whole. In February 2016, it sent troops and planes to reinforce a Turkish airbase in an apparent preparation for an invasion of Syria. Peace talks to resolve the conflict in the region have been hindered by Saudi Arabia's insistence that Bashar al-Assad leave, prolonging the bloodshed. Recently, the founding director of the CIA's Counter-Terrorism Center, Duane Claridge, alleged that Saudi Arabia possesses nuclear weapons. This in turn could lead to an arms race in the Middle East between Iran and Saudi Arabia, which could have devastating consequences for everyone. There is also evidence to suggest that Saudi Arabia, or at least its citizens, have supported international terrorist organizations including Al-Qaeda and ISIS. Osama bin Laden was a wealthy Saudi national before being stripped of his nationality in 1994. 15 of the 19 hijackers responsible for 9/11 were also Saudi nationals. Before 9/11, jihadis in Afghanistan were supported financially during the Soviet invasion by Saudi Arabia. According to Time magazine, the majority of bin Laden's funding stemmed not from his personal wealth but from sympathetic donors. And Sir Richard Dearlove, former head of MI6, says a significant amount of ISIS's funding also comes from private donors in either Saudi Arabia or neighbouring Qatar. For a country with a strong adherence to faith, particularly Sunni faith, combating Shia and overt Western influence is considered vital. In fact, Adam Curtis suggests that religious fundamentalism is so tied to the law that it could threaten the dominance of the Al Saud family. He says that to reduce this internal threat, the state encourages extremists to preach and spread their message abroad. And this resurgence in support for a strict interpretation of Islam has been cited as one of the many inspirations for the attacks in Paris and Brussels. Saudi Arabia enjoys a level of success and prosperity that other Middle Eastern countries do not have. Militarily, the kingdom does not possess the strength to continue a protracted ground war, instead intervening in the region with significant air power. Thanks to its mineral wealth, the country has the ability to influence international policies even over other superpowers. However, it is resurgent extremism and the ground support it enjoys that poses the real threat to Saudi Arabia's enemies as well as their allies. It's not what you can see with Saudi Arabia, it's what you can't that makes them so dangerous. Iron Tiger had stolen trillions of bytes of data from the US government and secretly monitored key US corporations.